Hello there, it's Matthew from Matthew North Music here again. And just a quick reminder to start with, if you like this channel or you're interested in a lot of the topics that I talk about in these videos, please think about hitting the like and the subscribe button and also clicking the bell icon. And if you click the bell icon, you'll then be informed of every new video that gets posted to the channel. Anyway, today's video is about something that I spotted on Facebook a little while ago. I was looking at one of the Pink Floyd collectors pages and there was mention of a pedal that David Gilmour used in the mid-70s called the Colorsound Power Boost. Now this is basically a booster pedal with some EQ on it, and it was one of his core sounds that he had in that period after making Dark Side of the Moon, and it was used on Wish You Were Here and it was used on Animals. And I think possibly also used on The Wall. But anyway, I thought, well, this is an interesting sounding pedal. And so I decided to look it up. Here it is. This is the Colorsound Power Boost, and it looks exactly the same as all those sort of Colorsound pedals were. And I do remember having a Colorsound pedal at one point, and I remember selling it probably 30 years ago for like a tenner because I didn't think it was particularly good at the time. But then you've got to remember, in the early 90s, it was all about ultra high gain, low noise, loud distortion, and the idea of sort of drive and crunch and stuff was never even thought of. Anyway, here's the pedal. But then I looked at the price, and the price was quite extraordinary. I kid ye not, £329 for basically an overdrive pedal. It also makes virtue of the fact it uses BC184L transistors. Well, they are very easily obtainable. The first thing you're going to need for one of these pedals then is a case. And there's one right there. I got this from a company on the internet and it was £12 plus shipping. Now, it looks a bit dull being silver, although it does have all the drills holes all marked out ready. And if you turn it over, you can see that there should be enough space in there to have two PP3 batteries, or I might move them to there, but I probably have them there. So that's all good. And to paint it, £6 off Amazon, a tin of orange spray paint. So I'll give that several coats and then we will have our orange pedal box. After several coats then, I've got the pedal painted and I think it certainly looks the part. It's the right sort of colour of orange, and I hammerited the base, so the idea will be that when they're together they'll be like this, with that on the bottom. Now, the pedal didn't actually come with any screws. It just came with rubber feet, which are around here somewhere. So I will need to go through the toolbox and get some rubber feet at some point. But that's the basic guts of our pedal. We've got 3 holes for bass, treble and volume, and we've got our foot switch here, so, and our mounting jacks at the back. So what I'm going to do first is I'm probably just going to actually for a start mount everything so we can see what we've got inside. Now this pedal runs on 18 volts, and to get 18 volts we just need 2 PP3 batteries, so there'll be 2 batteries in the base here, but then everything else should be pretty standard. Now the main things we need is our circuit board, and this is the circuit board that we're going to use. This is just a piece of Vera board. I've already marked all the holes out, if you can see there, so that's all good to go. And the basis of this circuit is some transistors, which are these ones here, and we need 3 of them. And I actually paid £2 for 10 of them, and which I thought was great value considering that is the heart of the pedal. And then it's just our usual capacitors and resistors to go in the circuit, and then we'll pop it all together and see how we get on. Everything's mounted now. Now back in the day it was fairly common practice to sometimes trim off the shaft of a pot. As you can see, they were not quite the same height, and I've trimmed this one down a bit. And so I just got the hacksaw out and just cut that, and everything's good to go now. I'm just going to pop the knobs on. Knobs in place then. Not quite the type that I actually want to use on this, although they do look reasonably authentic. I want to get some larger ones just so they cover up these holes, but these will do for now. I shall pop onto eBay later and I might get some better ones, but you can see it's starting to actually look the part. I decided I'd just actually get some of the wiring into the pedal first. So we can see here, this is our 2 terminals for the 2 batteries that will sit in that part of the tray here, and that's the plus that will go to give the 18 volt supply. I've wired in the volume pot's ground there, which just goes up to the ground of the output jack there. The input comes in here with the negative of our power going to the ring of the jack socket. So when you put your jack in, that then connects the power circuit. And then we use our little foot switch here. And these are basically, this is a triple control, because you basically have your signal coming in. It then can go through a loop wire to the output, so it's in true bypass. And when it's in the other position, it will go through these two pins, which will go into the circuit to give the effect. Now you've got a set in the middle as well. Now these are the ones that I would normally use for doing the LED, but this pedal's not going to have an LED because LEDs didn't exist on pedals in the 60s and early 70s, and I wanted to keep this as per how it was made. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build the circuit board, and I'm going to think of a way of mounting the circuit board in here, because normally what I've been doing is I've just been sticking it inside a tin box and maybe wrapping it up with some bubble wrap, and that works fine, you know, it's in there. But I don't know, maybe you might use tin copper wire on the pots and have the tin copper wires just coming out going straight to the board. I mean, that would probably be fairly rigid, although it probably wouldn't be ideal for lots of gigging, but certainly this is mostly going to be used as a studio pedal. I don't think I want to take this gigging because it looks too nice really, but we'll see how we get on anyway. Right then, I've got all the resistors on the board, and you can see I've made a few improvisations, one here and one here. And, you know, if you don't have the right values, you just do the maths and then you can improvise. And that's what I've always done, and there's pretty much all my pedal builds of things that aren't, you know, regular. There's always been some sort of improvisation. So, yeah, all the resistors are in. I'm just going to get the capacitors and the transistors, and then we just hook this thing up. Here's another little tip. Pop my transistor in here, press the button on this tester, and it will tell me what the type of transistor is, but more importantly, it'll tell you which pin is which. So it's saying pin 1 is the emitter, pin 2 is the collector, and pin 3 is the base. So pin 3 is that one on the bottom. Now if I go to my diagram, you can see that the base is actually in the middle. So this is actually different to how it's showing me how it's connected. So we will have to possibly move components around to make it fit. And just double checking, looking at the pin out on the circuit, then that is indeed correct, that the pin 1 is the emitter, pin 2 is the collector, and pin 3 is the base. And if we look at the circuit diagram here, it wants the base to be in the middle, so we're going to have to wire this up with some of the pins reversed. Now I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I'm hoping you can. And what I've done with this transistor is I put some heat shrink here on the end of the transistor, and then that way we can then bend the leg around to where it's got to go and bring the other leg around, so they're sort of crossed over, and hopefully you can see that, and you can see that they're crossed over, and that means that there's going to be no short circuiting between the pins, and then we can just solder it into the board like that. That's the problem with certain transistors. They come in different form factors, and these I think are called ECB, and yeah, they're slightly different pin outs, so you've got to modify them. Hopefully you can see there that the heat shrink's done quite a good job in protecting the leg, and they're all soldered in neatly. So the next job then is all the capacitors. Okay, well this is my pedal finished. Now I don't think the idea of using wires to hold the board in is such a great idea. That being said, it is in place, but as long as it doesn't bounce around too much, it'll be fine. But I think what I'll have to do is stick some sort of pad under here as well, and I probably will. I don't know. We'll see how it goes anyway. But we've got the input and the output wires here. That's actually tin copper wire, and I put some rubber sleeving, and I've used one of the wires going to the volume pot there. This is our bass and treble controls. They're just wired with traditional wire, and then we've got our battery terminals here. So really, our pedal is finished, and now is time to give it a test. Sometimes things might not always go to plan. This is my original board, and while the EQ on the pedal worked flawlessly, it just wasn't giving me the drive and the gain. And I couldn't work out what it was. I actually gave up. I thought I've done something wrong here, or there was something wrong with the layout diagram. So I found another layout diagram for the same pedal, same design, on a different layout, and I built this. Well then, how does the pedal sound? Here it is in its entirety and all finished. As you can possibly see there, it's got a couple of knocks. That's because it's already been gig worn. In fact, there's actually a chip of paint off the side as well. But you know, these things happen. That's how it goes, I guess. For the test, I'm using my ever dependable Champ clone. And what's quite nice about it is that it's got no tone control, it's got no EQ. So we can actually see how the pedal works with its EQ as well. So let's get back to the pedal. Everything there is dead center. I'm going to switch the pedal on, and this is basically everything in the middle. And if I turn it off, so basically with the pedal in circuit, you get a slight little bit of a treble boost. And if I bring the bass up a bit, you know, it's got a nice lift there, and same if we can bring the treble up as well. So actually it's really good for... Turn the bass down. So even at the sort of medium midpoint, it's really rather nice as a form of EQ. And the EQ, I think, is really nice on this pedal. Now if we turn the volume up to say 3 o'clock. I'm going to turn the gain down on the camera a little bit. Here, we certainly are getting a bit more drive. Then turn the treble up a bit as well. And then if we just turn it up a little bit more, you can hear there's a bit of a buzz, and that's because I'm using a guitar with single coils, and so you will pick up a bit more noise, but we've got that classic sort of 70s drive now. And then turn the bass up as well. And then we can turn it up a bit more. You know, that we've got real great sound. We turn it right up to the top. You know, we've got real drive on this pedal, and I just think this is it does sound great. Let's whack it right up to the top. I'm just going to actually turn my amp down now because it's actually very loud. Maybe knock the bass down a bit, treble up a bit. Anyway, that's kind of how the pedal sounds, and on this next clip, this is me playing through this pedal into my Plexi at the Blues Jam. So how does this thing then sound in a mix? Well, what I've done is I've just got my guitar going through the pedal as it was just in the sound test, and I've made a little backing track. Now, this backing track uses some drums by my friend Emily Dolan Davis, of which there is a link in the description. Now, she does many things. She's played drums on several of my tracks, but also she does this thing called Drum Stem Club, and what that entails is she puts up drum beats, drum patterns, drum loops, whatever, in certain tempos, certain styles, and anyone can download them, and it's kind of on like a, pay what you like thing. So you can download them for free if you want, or you can donate some money or whatever. And then she basically lets you use them in whatever way you see fit. She puts up a mix of the drums, which is actually what I'm using here. I've just added some reverb and that's it. And also she puts the individual stems, so you can use little chunks of it, you can make loops, you can do whatever you like with it basically. And all she asks for is to be credited on whatever it is that you do. So whether, say you release a track and you've used drum patterns, then obviously you've got to add it to the PRS, credit, whatever. And she's happy with that, which I think is great because it's real drums. It's not Fruity Loops, it's not these, what's the thing called, Easy Drummer. It's none of that. It's actual real person playing real drums recorded properly. So I've just made a minute of this track. I recorded some bass and a little bit of keyboards, and I'm just going to play along with it basically. So let's see how it goes. Well, there you go. So it is possible to build a pedal for 30 quid that does, in essence, the same job as a pedal that costs £329. Now, before anybody says, oh, you can't compare the two. Yes, I know the proper ones. They've got a nice printed circuit board. They're being built by the person who built them originally. I get all of that. I'm just talking about the basic nuts and bolts. And for me, these reissue pedals, it's nice that they do them. But I think, like a lot of things, like deluxe vinyl box sets, which I talk about a lot on this channel, I think the price is too high. I think had the proper pedal been £150, I think that would be fair. Because, we know how much the parts cost. Yeah, they got printed circuit boards and better pots. Yeah, that'll add a little bit more to the price, but not much. And then, by the same token, it also means the manufacturing costs are easier because it takes less time to build one than if you're building one on stripboard. But there is a lot of really expensive stuff. And actually, while I was in London the other day, I was in a music shop and they had a reissue of a pedal called the Burns Buzz Around, which is like a fuzz pedal. Well, this pedal also retails for about £300. And what offends me about that is the original pedal was a rip-off of another pedal entirely, which was the harmonic generator made by my good friend Jerry Pope of GP Electronics. And Burns at the time just nicked the idea, copied it and manufactured it and sold a lot of them. So, a rip-off pedal of a rip-off pedal for 300 quid. Now, if you're going to spend this sort of money, I want something new and I want something good. You can buy a Strymon Flint or a Strymon Timeline for this sort of money. which is a modern pedal with really high quality components that does a really fantastic job. Yeah, this is a basic fuzz box, and at its heart are transistors that you can buy a pack of 10 for £2, including delivery to your door. And that's all I'm going to say on it. Anyway, hope you like the video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Here is where one of the leads for the volume goes. Now, there's this capacitor here, and I hadn't soldered that wire of the capacitor properly, and so it had solder around the edge of it, but nothing touching the pin, and that's why it didn't work. And so I've now got basically another board which works. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to put this in a box, but I'm just going to stick the knobs on it. I might not even put a foot switch on it. I'll probably just put a toggle switch on it. And I will have this set up purely for recording, because I do like the sound of this pedal a lot. And it is something I'm going to use. But I don't want to make another one just to gig with, because I've built the big one. So I'll just turn this into like a little recording pedal. And I think this will be quite a smart little device. And I can actually then mount it in like an old, baked bean tin or something, because it won't be getting the heavy duty use. And that comes on to something I will bring to later when I sum up. But this pedal that you can buy for, £329, you could almost build for about a tenner, because on here there's no more than a fiver's worth of components, 3 pots at £1 each, and a couple of battery clips, and you've got the guts of the effect.